Hi everybody, Dumb Meta here, and welcome back to me going through my favorites list on fanfiction.net. What I'm doing is I have my account on fanfiction.net, have a large list of favorite stories, sorting them by publication date, and rereading them to see whether they deserve to stay on my list or not. So let's just get right in to More Than Just a Murder by AkitaFallow, which is a CSI crossover with Full Metal Alchemist. Now, this is Full Metal Alchemist, the 2003 anime, not the not Brotherhood or the manga itself. So there are slight changes, but that are not manga compliant. But you know, whatever. And it starts just after the anime, where Ed disappears and instead ends up in Las Vegas, right at the crime scene where the CSI team is investigating, and so you get, your murder mystery while dealing with Ed trying to go back to his world. It's interesting eventually. The first 10 or so chapters are a lot of moving pieces where people just jump from place, not jump, but like move from place to place or do just things without talking, or they talk a little, but there's not a lot of character interaction. You don't see a lot of backstory or like emotional like growth going on, but that changes later on, and it's really becomes interesting. One, like, an annoyance that comes is from the fact is like the murderer is kind of Riddlery, which is kind of out of place in CSI. Well, with like this guy is constantly leaving notes for the main detective and stuff like that, and constantly leaves traps and shit, and I don't really remember that from CSI. But overall, I enjoyed this piece a lot, especially once the character development gets going and you see how Ed interacts with the CSI team. And I love this fic a lot, so yeah, it's staying on my list. Alright. Next is Hell is a Martial Artist by Ozzallos, where Ranma from Ranma 1/2 meets Hild from Oh My Goddess. As I'm saying this now, I'm realizing like I'm basically just saying names and expecting you guys to know who they are. And yeah, unless you want these videos to be really, really longer, where I go into the minutia of every single character, and like go into explaining and setting up full backstories for each of them, that's what it's going to be. And I apologize if these get a little confusing. But hey, just jump in and read these stories, because some stories require backstory, but the good ones you shouldn't need to know the backstory to deal with them. And yeah, most of these better ones you don't have to. Like this one, the Ranma and Hild. Like even if you have no knowledge of either of these, you will know who Hild is through this story, and you'll know who Ranma is and how he relates to people. And it's still a good story without pre-knowledge. And I will tell you right now, there are many different pieces of media that I've basically learned canon of through fanfiction and not through reading any of the actual source material. I'm not saying it's the best way. You're going to get a lot of misconceptions if you do that, especially if you only pick like choice material, but you can still get the gist of it by just seeing what gets repeated and what kind of traits appear over and over in different fics. But yeah, moving on. This story. This story is basically a relationship story between Ranma and Hild, a mother-daughter relationship story, and it is great. Like, their relationship is developed, created, and shown in a wonderful way, and what they do is always totally entertaining, and I just love it tremendously. And yeah, it's just like a character piece for either Ranma or Hild. You should definitely check it out, and yeah, it stays on my list. Alright. Now we got Dr. What by TardisIsTheOnlyWayToTravel, which is a small Harry Potter fic where he's basically inspired by Doctor Who, gets himself a TARDIS, and goes on an adventure to, kill Voldemort. And yeah, so this is a one-shot, or it was written as a one-shot, but it's not, so it exists as a one-shot, but it's not. It's essentially the first chapter of an anthology series or the first chapter of a story, and as such it feels very, very incomplete and unsatisfying, and it's not satisfying by itself. It very much needs the other pieces of it that this writer wrote later on that also exist in like very short pieces. But if they combined them all together, it would be an interesting piece, and they're fun in a slightly funny way. And yeah, it's okay if you go into it and look at it and all together, but as an individual piece, no, it's gonna get cut off my list. Alright, now is The Art of the Deal by Case 13. And Case 13 is like Rorschach's Blot and a few others. Like, they're one of the authors that I enjoy a lot, and I have a shit ton of their stories on my list. And Case 13, like, he mostly writes Naruto, and this is a good one. Just like, basically when Naruto was a kid, he has an accident and he loses the ability to use his chakra, so he can't be a ninja, and so he gets kicked out of ninja program and all that stuff. And while he's, you know, being sad, he comes across a guy who's trying to get a better deal on stuff and decides to try and learn a bit about that, and then becomes a super great businessman. And I love the story. The premise is great. The way business deals are shown in the story are great. The relationship dynamic between Anko, who Naruto uses as a business partner, and Naruto is fantastic. And also, this author is really awesome with world building. And so all these little pieces that he creates, mostly out of thin air, are great little digressions that you get to see for different like insights into the Naruto world. So I think this is a fantastic story, much like I will with his other stories, I imagine. And so yeah, this one stays on my list. Alright, now we have Caught in a Ladder by Senatios, which is a very, very serious Hikaru no Go fic. Yeah, so Hikaru, in this one, like, Hikaru is playing netgo, and with First Sai, and then he runs into, as he leaves the saloon, he runs into Ogata, who's like a super top level pro who really wants to know who Sai is, and so he just gets annoyed with Hikaru, and because they have a little conversation, he sees a little inconsistency and essentially kidnaps Hikaru. And then this story is mostly told through Hikaru's point of view, with a couple others showing up for small scenes, but it is basically the story of Hikaru getting kidnapped and then having to deal with a kidnapping while trying to escape and finding ways out of it. And yeah, it is, it's very, very interesting. It's kind of disturbing, but yeah, it's interesting. There's no like super torture involved, aside from the fact like, yeah, he's kidnapped, and then yeah, he goes through like, gets like semi-starved and stuff like that. But there's no like thumb screws and under the nails or shit, stuff like that. And it's an interesting story. The way he gets out and gets, you know, the way it gets resolved is interesting and kind of weird, but it fits with the world and, like, you know, its focus on Go and all that stuff. One of the great things is how it evolves Sai as a character, because in the anime, he's basically just an annoying pain in the ass who's always just like, let me play Go, I want to play Go, and he's just constantly annoying this. And even at the beginning of this fic, like in the beginning of this fic, that's exactly how he is, and he's just like, I'm in this, Hikaru's in this terrible situation, and Sai's just like, oh, I can play Go with him, I can do this, let me play Go, and he's not understanding the seriousness of it. But then as it goes on, he starts to realize what is going on, you know. And I hated Sai at the beginning of this when I reread it, and I was just like, you're a fucking idiot. But like, he grows, and it becomes like, then he becomes the only stable thing that Hikaru has, and like what's keeping him sane. And I think that's amazing that like you get to see this character growth, and the author does it super well. Overall, I find the story to be really, really good as a, you know, in the Hikaru no Go fic, and I recommend it highly. And yeah, it stays on my list. Now, almost over, we got Heir of Gringotts by the Caitiff. Another really short, like, you know, joke fic that was basically making fun of a cliche that was seemed to be growing at the time. It says in the thing of basically, oh, Harry turns out to have super genes, and so everybody wants to have babies with him. And yeah, it's fun. It gets out quick. It's enjoyable. I laughed a lot. Short, sweet, funny. Stays on my list. And now for the last one for this video is A Boy in the Hand by Dogbert Carroll. And like I said, Dogbert Carroll is another author that I like a lot, and a lot of his shit is going to be on my list as well. This fic is a Sailor Moon Ranma 1/2 crossover where basically Hotaru, which is Sailor Saturn, wants a boyfriend, and she gets told, like, you gotta trap him, and so she makes a trap. Shampoo shows up from Ranma 1/2 to help, and actually she ends up snaring Ranma, and so Ranma tries to go on a date and have fun, and then a Yoma attack occurs, and so he finds out she's Sailor Saturn and goes to help out, and that causes a misunderstanding with the other Sailor Senshi. And then you have a whole bunch of other sexual like humor jokes and stuff like that, mainly focused on the Sailor Senshi, but with a couple with in the Ranma cast as well. And it's just a nice bit of fun that I still really enjoyed. And yeah, I wish it continued, but yeah, it's still funny, and yeah, it stays on my list. So there we have it, a bunch more stories. If you like this video, please leave a comment. All the URLs for these stories are in the description below. If you want to keep up to date on when I keep putting these out, subscribe so you can keep getting these videos. And thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.